Happy to have you aboard here for the Really Big Barbecue Show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me!
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 54 wieners.
Oh, listen, Libertius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seed.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And just like that, we are into the second hour. It's the Barbecue Central Show, where we talk about live fire barbecue and grilling items of only the highest magnitude and order. Still to come on the show this evening, Wes Wright from cookoutnews.com, and then closing out the show with Daniel Vaughn from Texas Monthly Barbecue. If you missed the first hour and change, too bad for you. You just missed Jeremy Umansky break Koji down the likes of nobody else. The foremost authority on Koji. You learned all about it, how you do it on chicken, ribs, pork butt, brisket. Also, how you would make a dry-aged steak. And he said 75 to 80% flavor match on what a real dry-age would do, except in 2 days, you can have what would be akin to a 30-day dry-age. So for me, better part of a week, you got damn near 100-day dry-age flavor. So easier for me to do a week than it is an actual 100 days, which is a week longer than 3 months. I'm that smart. I figured that all out on my own. We say good evening to those of you watching tonight through our video streaming platforms, Facebook and Twitch /BBQ Central Show. Also over on YouTube /RD Rempe. And of course, our friends listening audibly on Clubhouse. We also have an update on the YouTube poll question of the week. Which fuel do you prefer to cook with, gas, charcoal, or wood? And it is a dead heat right now. Charcoal and wood sitting at 48% and gas sitting at 5%. Finally, one or two of you ballied up and said, hey now, we love gas, so I certainly appreciate that. It's not my favorite, but I'm certainly not ashamed to say that gas is one of my more favorite cooking fuels. But in the end, for me, my favorite way to cook is wood, followed by charcoal, and a close third is gas. So while it does rank 3 out of 3, I use gas quite frequently, but more for convenience, and I just like it. But if I have to pick, it's got to be wood. There's no doubt for me. But that's just the way I like it. You have your own. The Barbecue Show and YouTube is saying, I went to Walmart but forgot my wallet. Koji came out of nowhere and paid my bill. Thank you, Koji. Give me a hell yeah, Koji.
Give me a hell yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank God. Magic Koji everywhere. Not only is it adding dry age, it's paying for people's grocery at Walmart. Just keep that to yourself, Kinger, because you mentioned Koji popped out of your wallet and paid for things, especially in Walmart. People are going to be asking you to borrow your Koji. And who knows what kind of a bill or tab Koji has before now it is in the wrecking book. Who knows? Hey, coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less, episode 274, taking you back to September 6th, 2006. And what is it? The first ever podcast ever, not live show, first ever production ever made as it relates to my time in the live fire industry. Is it great? Yes. It is greatly bad. It's really bad, especially if you compare it to the last 10 years of doing shows. However, this was way back in a time when no one knew about podcasting. Most people still didn't grasp what podcasting is or even how to use it both as a learning tool or marketing tool these days. So if you run it back to 2006, you can only imagine the blank stares I was getting as I asked someone if they wanted to be on a podcast. I did have a guest on this show, believe it or not. The guest sounded better than me, both audibly and from a confidence perspective. And as I bring up audio quality here, the technology back then was scarce. On top of that, I had no background in audio or production of any sort. So I used what was available to me at the time, and like most things for me, free. That was Telcaster, founded by a guy named Hoyt Prysock, a visionary of podcasting business. Of course, the downside to this technology was it was an interface. It was, in essence, a glorified teleconference room, and that's what it recorded. So if you listen on Friday and you wonder why everybody sounds like they're on the phone, it's because everybody was on the phone.
Get that big stuff out of here.
This is where we were in the beginning of the show. We've evolved from that point to where we are today, which is the audio standard for the entire broadcast podcast industry. I have raised the bar. I have set the standard of excellence that every show should be striving to meet on terrestrial radio, on satellite radio, on all podcasts. I have raised the bar. I'm asking everybody to meet my standard. So as you tune in to the Best Moment Show this Friday, realize that this is where the show all started from. This is the very point. This is the origin story of the Barbecue Central show that you will hear both Friday and then the following Friday. John has split it up into a undoctored 2-part series, so you can hear the whole thing. The very first show, this is where it all started. And no mean emails to me about how bad it is, because guess what? I lived it.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast in order to get it. But if you ever wanted to hear the first show ever, this is the one you want to check out on Tuesday. And again, save your constructive criticism because you're 18 years too late. Wes Wright is ready to rock and roll. Before we get to him, let's learn about Big Papa Smokers. What do we know? The one-stop online shop for all things barbecue. A fantastic selection of products, handpicked by Sterling Big Papa Ball himself. You know about the popular flavors of rubs and seasoning: Sweet Money, Cattle Prod Cash Cow, Double Secret Steak, Jalapeno Hallelujah, all the 13 perfectly balanced flavors. You know them, you love them. Winning on competition circuits, winning in backyards all over the country and the world. Also owners of Granny's Barbecue Sauce. So if you're looking for a new go-to sauce, try out Granny's. If you're sick of what's currently out there or you've had enough of that. They're also selling cookers of all shapes and sizes. If you're looking for a versatile smoker that's easy to use, check out that Mac 2-star General Pellet Cooker. Big Papa Smokers, the exclusive Mac dealer, even offering special packages. If you're not a fan of pellet smokers, or you're not sure what grill you might want, give them a call. Ask questions, 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727, or shop their website at bigpapasmokers.com. That's BIGPOPPA smokers.com. And we'll be back with Wes Wright after this. Stick around. Be right back.
Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central show.
And this portion being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker. The most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet, currently available in 3 sizes with a host of accessories. Doesn't matter if you're a beginner or a professional, it's a cooker you want to add to that arsenal. Visit pitbarrelcooker.com. Check out the sizes and buy the one that best fits you, and tell them the Barbecue Central show sent you. My next guest tonight is the creator of CookoutNews.com and the third Tuesday of the month regular guest, here to talk about the latest news in the live fire industry. So we welcome back our pal Wes Wright. Wes, let's start with big names and work through the rest of it here during our time this evening. We'll talk Traeger first. And in a shocker to me, Meter is the biggest and best thing going at Traeger right now, at least in Q4 of 2022. Poised to grow?
Yeah, Meter's doing great for them. I was surprised in their last earnings call. They talked about how amazing it's going, and it's really, it's made accessories grow a ton for them. It's going so well that they actually had to take out a loan to pay $15 million for something called an earnout. When you buy a company, you set performance targets for it. And if they meet or exceed them, you get a bonus to that company that you bought. So earnout is just a fancy word for bonus, but they had to draw down from their credit line to pay for $15 million next year because they're overperforming. And yeah, they should grow too because they started getting into Home Depot in December. So, it'll take a little time for them to roll out there, but that's a big revenue stream, obviously.
Is it good for a business to have to take a loan in order to pay bonus?
Ideally, that's probably not the way they planned it. They bought Meter when things were still going great in the height of the pandemic. But it does mean that they're exceeding what, the people that bought them thought they would do. So it's good in that aspect. But, when you're a little strapped for cash like Traeger is, they probably don't want to be paying that right now.
The way Meter is set up right now, they're kind of the only kid on the block. Now, Combustion Inc. is certainly coming up at a pretty rapid rate at this point. It's got a gauge that's 40% less than what the Meter would leave in the meat. It appears to be working very well. With more competition, do you see Meter continuing its thrive, or the minute somebody else that comes up that's comparable or even better? Because, in my estimation, there's still a lot of knocks against Meter, regardless of how well the sales are. I think the performance still lacks a lot of luster. So the minute something else comes along that is performing better and was in that same pricing threshold, that thing could drop like a tank.
Yeah, it's how much of that, Traeger cachet, I guess, rubs off on a Meter. There's people that just love Traeger products. Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting, though, if some of those other companies, and I know you had a guest on recently who ran one, and, he was saying that his performs better than Meter. If they can, work out a deal with grill companies, so, I can't think of hardly any, if any, other grills, pellet grills that come with Bluetooth thermometers. So if they can start to, work out package deals when you buy them, I think that's the foothold in that'll start to, bring some competition to that.
How do you think Traeger ended the year last year? Better than anticipated?
It's hard to say. Their grill sales were down 52%. So that's never, a headline you want to go into. It's hard to know how much inventory is built up, and that was the reason why, their sales were so terrible, or if that's a sign of things to come. They're going to have a little bit of trouble, though, because they have that glut of inventory, and then they introduce new products. So there's extra SKUs that they have to get into the market and balance all that. They beat their own expectations that they put out there, and I think largely their stock people that owned it were happy with it. But, it really... I don't think anyone would be happy with a 52% loss. It seems like every grill company's, though, saying, don't judge us off previous years. Let's go back to 2019 as the baseline. That's the messaging we're hearing. So,
when I'm looking at the Traeger numbers, is it, when they're counting sales, is it just either through distributor or dealers? It's not like you buying a Traeger and then that counts as a sale for them, right?
Yeah. So that's the problem, is that, let's say like Home Depot has a bunch of Traegers sitting around that they need to sell. So if I go buy a Traeger from Home Depot, that's not necessarily a sale for Traeger unless Home Depot replenishes what I bought. And what we're hearing is that retailers are doing something called destocking. So they're lowering the number of inventory that they have of the grills. So they're not replenishing that, which means that they're not buying from Traeger. And another thing too worth mentioning from their call is they said one of the largest retailers, I'm guessing it's Home Depot, is coming out with their own private label pellets, and so they're seeing some pain from that in the consumables side, that they're going to sell their own pellets rather than Traeger's.
Given all the turnover in the industry's top positions amongst many other companies, are you surprised that Traeger CEO is still in place?
I think what's unique about him is he owns so much of the company, and he has a lot of goodwill from where he brought Traeger from. So my guess is if they can do okay through this summer, he'll be okay. If they're anything like Weber, is turning into, then I would say he'll he'll have a lot tougher go staying in his seat.
I would venture a guess, though, that Traeger isn't in that position. I mean, Weber seemed to be out of their depths for whatever reason.
Yeah, Weber had way more debt than Traeger did. So as long as they can keep lowering inventory, keep sales up, I think he'll be okay. And a lot of it is just he's established credibility, and they do have a lot of positive metrics. They're real big when you listen to their calls on social media followings and things like that, and they're pretty good in that regard.
Is Traeger financially fit? If you look at shares, they're just cresting over $4, and 3 months ago they were $2.50. Towards the end of 2022, I think it's 83% down from release. A year and a half ago. So, from a fitness standpoint, they're still okay. You think?
Yeah, they're still at manageable levels of debt. That's the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
They said they're at higher debt levels than they want to be, but it's manageable. It's not out of control. It seems like everyone's just kind of holding their breath for what this summer will bring, though. Where it's with inflation and the overall consumer sentiment being what it is. I don't think anyone wants to really say how good or bad things are going to be. It's kind of, I felt like a wait and see approach going forward.
They brought 2 new products to market here recently. So they did a revamped Ironwood 2 weeks later. So they unleashed the Flat Rock, which is their standalone griddle cooker. Any idea how those are being received into the market outside of seeing the social media onslaught on the days that those were being released, respectively?
I think we'll have to wait a couple months for them to start talking about sales with they just released their last quarter, was last week. So those grills were pretty fresh and hadn't been in the results previously yet. All they went off of was how it's being received in the market and via social media, but also they supplied a lot of those grills. So you're going to see a lot of social media presence. An interesting thing with that too, though, is they revamped the Timberline and they revamped the Ironwood, so that leaves the Pro model as the odd man out, and I think they have a ton of stock of that. Given that at the end of last year they were discounting it like 35-40% on Black Friday, which they never used to do. So it'll be interesting to see if people are still buying that this summer too.
I heard that the Traeger was telling dealers through a number of confirmed sources that they need to stick 8 of the Flat Rocks on their floor. Otherwise, they might risk some type of dealer status downgrade or something like this. Is that common practice, or did you hear something along the same lines by any chance?
I haven't heard that. It wouldn't surprise me. They have the upper hand with that. And if you're trying to move inventory, that's a good way to do it, is to pressure the little guys into doing it. It's obviously not the best practice to do. It's not, something I would want to stake my name to, but it's kind of the opposite of the big retailers that, I've heard from other grill companies are saying, we're not going to pay you for your whole product. So you're just going to deal with that. So, that's something too that, big box companies like Walmart have been notorious for years. I think it's just going the other way, where the manufacturer is much bigger than the retailer in this case.
Wes Wright joining us here on the show, cookoutnews.com, his website. Make sure you're checking it out if you haven't visited before and that you're signed up for the weekend refuel. You can sign up for that at the top of the page. Let's move on to Weber here, Wes. They've gone from public to private. I believe that has all been finalized now. So my question is, how often does a company race to go public only to turn back around and go private? Not even within a year of itself, but just in general, how often does that happen?
I think that's pretty rare. I couldn't name anybody else that's done that I can think of.
Wow.
That's a pretty rare scenario. I put an article up today, though, that they pretty much had to do it. They needed $350 million to almost stave off bankruptcy because they were going to be out of line with the banks. So, and part of that deal with the banks was they had to be private because they knew they would get cash into their business. So that was the only way. But yeah, going public and then 1.5 to 2 years later going back private's pretty strange.
They appear to be in a development stage of something called control by wire. So tell us a little bit about what this is, and do you feel that this might be a future of the industry type of thing?
Yeah, I think definitely that's something we'll see if not from Weber, but from somebody. That's where the whole industry is going. And you know, mainly we see it with pellet grills, and connected grilling like that. But, it's gas grills are a little behind on that, other than the only real smart gas grills that I can think of is, the Nevo, which came out, and Charbroil's Cruise, which came out. Those both are smart grills. But what control by wire is instead of the knob turning an actual mechanical valve that releases gas into a burner, the knob doesn't do anything by itself. It interfaces with a controller that dictates how much to open the valve. And that may sound insignificant because it's doing the same thing, but the way that Weber's patent worked is that makes it so you can make startup and shutdown easier, rather than having to, turn on the gas, hit the igniter, and also, turn on the propane before that. You can all do that through one or two button presses. And then from there, it even opens the window further from being able to set recipes or control things on your phone, which, is where a lot of the grilling industry is going. So I think we'll see that for sure.
Weber launched the charcoal heat controller for $99. Good accessory?
I think it's neat. I'm going to probably buy one and try it out myself, because I'm a little bit lazy, so charcoal grilling doesn't always work out. But it's neat that it has multiple functions where you have a cone that you can fill up with charcoal for some high heat searing, and it really directs it. Or there's a diffuser that sits on top of that where you're supposed to be able to fill up half of it with charcoal, and you get 5 to 7 hours of 250 degree low and slow. And they claim it's supposed to be pretty effortless. So I want to see if it really is.
This would be something that is different from, I don't know if you're familiar with the Vortex that was real popular a couple of years ago, but it looked like this one has both a Vortex type of a appliance there in the middle, but then it's also got a shield that will sit around and you can build charcoal around what would be the Vortex for a little bit more of a diffused heat.
Yeah, it is. You're right. It's kind of similar in principle, but with they execute it a little differently. It's a decent product for $100 to make grilling easier. I feel like they're not promoting it enough. They cut back their ad budget a lot there, and I only see images of just like the product by itself, and it doesn't really explain to you what it is. But it looks neat.
Has Weber gone a little dark as far as promotion? They released the griddle a couple weeks ago, a week ahead of when Traeger released their Flat Rock. You saw all types of fanfare for Traeger when that thing got released, but it seems like Weber is never on the big megaphone broadcasting what they're doing, other than having, Mike Lang from Another Pint Please talk about it. Are they missing the boat on promotion?
So what they're doing is, because they have such a cash problem, the easiest thing to do when you're running out of money is to cut your ad budget, because it doesn't hurt you today and it might hurt you tomorrow, right? So that's an easy source of cash. So they needed money. They in their SEC filings, this is what I'm detailing. They cut down on their ad spend and their product development for 2023, banking on they can ramp it up for some big product releases in 24, and they'll turn back on the ad budget. And they kind of need that to go well to buoy their cash position. So, I'm hoping to see some bigger releases next year where these were kind of also run. I saw a trademark filing for another Weber Q, which is a big popular portable grill for them. So maybe we'll see that along with the control by wire product. That'd be my just, out of the blue guess on what we'll see next year.
There was some news as Charbroil is concerned. There was a new CEO installed. I don't know if you know anything about him or what his vision for the company is.
Yeah, I didn't. So they didn't really publicly announce that much. I ran an article on my site based off something I saw from a local paper or something like that, and I had to dig into it. I don't know much about him. He was at the company for, I want to say, a year or two prior to taking over. But yeah, it's another casualty of CEO casualty of the grill market. Is we've been through 6 or 7 across the companies since the pandemic.
Thoughts on the Edge coming into the market this grilling season in a strong way? It's been out, but really making an appearance this year.
Yeah, I think as long as you spend some money promoting it, it's gonna. I think it'll be an interesting product, and some people seem to like the Lumen, and I think this is better than that in terms of that it's a real grilling experience. I heard on your show actually that they're going to promote it more heavily this year, so we'll see if that catches on. They had a European version that they just released called the Smart E, which is pretty cool because it uses 220 rather than 110 volts, so it has a lot more power, more grilling area, and everything like that. But yeah, they're leading the pack on that as we're waiting for Napoleon to release their electric grill that's been put off for, I don't know, 6 months or so.
Is that going to be a 110?
Yeah, it's going to be a 110. It's a smart grill too. It's a full-size electric grill.
When I was at HPB, I was talking to a number of the manufacturers. Rule number 1 of the show applies, no names, please. And I think 3 out of the 4 of them, maybe 4 out of 4 of them, said they're not necessarily against full-size electric, but they all talked about needing 220 in order to do the right things. Do you think that is the case?
I mean, I bought an Edge just to try out, and I was getting 700 degrees out of it. It just took a little time to heat up, so you had to plan ahead almost like a pellet grill. But it performed well. I think there is a design challenge with being limited to that, but it's a legit grill. It's a smaller area, so you really would only want to grill for maybe 2-3 people, but it's a legit grill.
Connected cookers, Kamado Joe. Is this thing that's going to be taking off, or is it just like, well, we have something that's connected in case you want it in a stale ceramic cooker market?
Yeah, I think that's the hard sell, is getting more people to adopt ceramic cookers, because a lot of people, it seems like them for their more pure grilling experience. It's as opposed to using a connected pellet grill. And if you want to just get a connected grill, why spend the money on a pretty small Kamado grill when you can get a pellet grill that does more for cheaper? So I think that's the hard sell on it. You might get some converts that are already Kamado Joe fans, but I don't see too many people jumping onto it.
What's the biggest breaking news of the week that you think is going to happen?
I'm trying to think if there's anything. I think we're just kind of waiting to spring here. We've had endless new grill releases leading up to now, and I think now we're just waiting for spring to start and sales to start taking off to see where we're at.
YouTube poll question of the week, and then I will let you go. Which fuel do you prefer to cook with, Wes? Gas, charcoal, or wood?
I like wood.
Yeah.
But also, I'm not gonna put down gas either, though. I like the speed of that. When you constrain on time. 50%
wood, 45% charcoal, and 5% gas. And I am not a gas hater, just like you, so I appreciate its convenience. You can find Wes Wright at cookoutnews.com or at the associated social media handles. Wes, always appreciate the time, and we will see you again in April.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Greg.
You got it. It's Wes Wright. Again, his website, weswright.com, or you can find him really at cookoutnews.com. Cookoutnews.com. As I say each and every time, show up at least 3 times a week. His content is going up like crazy. He's got all the inside news. It's great. A valued member and recurring guest of this show monthly now. Daniel Vaughn is ready to play. I will talk to you quickly about the National Barbecue and Grilling Association. Since 1991, NBBQA has been the voice of the barbecue and grilling industry by helping members network and learn from proven professionals. Cal Phelps looks to take the history of this organization and move it into new heights here in 2023. They did it with the annual conference a couple months ago, and now they are even moving further ahead. All the reports are in now saying that this was one of the best annual conferences they've had to date. Things are moving in the right direction, and now we'll start to see those regional conferences that they're going to be putting together. So if you've been on the fence about joining, becoming a member, don't be on the fence. Jump over. Become a member. nbbqa.org. That's nbbqa.org. Explore all the membership levels, what it gets you. And if you can't join some of these things in person, depending on where you are in the country and where they're actually being held and at what time, the good news is that NBBQA is taping everything, videoing everything. So if you can't make it out there in person, you can always get stuff on video. So you have, in essence, all the learning material, all the new reference, all the new things that are trending right at your fingertips and watch on demand whenever you want. You can go back and refresh. If you're forgetting some of the things, it's all great. NBBQA.org is the place to go, and you can explore what they're all about. And if you are in the business of barbecue, a restaurant, you're selling sauces or rubs or anything that has to do with it, it's a trade organization that you want to get involved with and support. Once again, the website, nbbqa.org. That's nbbqa.org. We're back with Daniel Vaughn right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Let's get back to a guy who has more experience giving you his opinion than he actually has cooking. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And we thank Wes Wright for joining us last segment, the website cookoutnews.com. Helping me close the show tonight, the barbecue editor for Texas Monthly's magazine. You see him on this show quarterly for visits throughout this year of 2023 as we talk about things going on in Texas and in the barbecue world in general. We race to the hotline and welcome back our pal, Daniel Vaughn. Daniel, I had Jeremy Umansky on in the first hour, and we were both lauding you for bringing me to larder, and I'm shamed to say it, but I'm not too proud not to say it. When we were enjoying a barbecue meal a number of years ago, and you said, "Oh, hey, you ever been to this place over on the west side?" And I said, "No." And you're like, "Let's get in the cab right now. We got to go right now." And that was the best place to go that day, right?
Yeah, no, the place is incredible. I love that place. And you know, I think it was not long after that he had a couple of real stars there. Mm-hmm. With Daniel Ballou and Thomas Keller coming in, singing his praises as well. So we were ahead of that curve.
Thank goodness, and that's why we are in the positions that we are. You're probably talented. I was just lucky to be riding your coattails that day, but I'll take credit wherever I can get it. So we have some topics to talk about this evening here, Daniel, and a couple weeks ago, I find myself in Houston for reasons I shall not disclose. But I finally had some real-ass Texas barbecue. And lo and behold, it's the number 3 on the top 50 list for Texas Monthly, Truth Barbecue. What do you like best about Truth?
Okay, so did you know that going in that you were eating at the number 3 place, or you found that out afterwards?
So it's both. I knew because we had talked about the list and we had won over the top 10. Also, after the fact, I had Leonard Botello on the show. I think we talked, was he at one time on the list twice for 2 different locations, or he had made it on the list in successive releases or something along these lines?
We certainly, we enjoy both locations at Texas Monthly. So you were at the Houston location, which is their newer one.
Yeah.
The big grand palace of Truth Barbecue.
Yeah.
What do I love about it? Oh, man. Well, the one thing that you can't leave there without is a slice of that giant cake. Chocolate cake, and there's a coconut cake.
Red velvet.
Red velvet. Yeah. They do them all well. But the burnt end, the brisket boudin there. Oh my God, it's so good. And then, it's not really something you can order on its own, but if you get a turkey sandwich and then you put some of the cream spinach on there, man, that's quite a combination. But the last time I was in, I had the 4th slice of brisket, which, as you well know, is the best slice.
Daniel, look at you trying to start up a mockery of social media, having people go out. Here's what I love about Texas. You put this out about 4th slice of brisket. You showed video of wherever you were at, the guys cutting in and showing the 4th slice of brisket.
It was the truth.
It was truth. Okay. And I'm like, wow. This guy is starting nonsense on purpose. But I mentioned it on the show a couple days later. It just happened. Maybe you posted over the weekend, and Tuesday was coming quickly, so I mentioned it. How many people from Texas are emailing me and messaging me, dude, you have a barbecue show and you don't know about the fourth slice of brisket? This is old talk. We've done this forever, blah, blah, blah. Everybody was taking credit for it, hand over fist, and I'm talking to you about it, and you're like, well, I don't know. It was like, to my knowledge, I was the first one putting it out there.
Well, that's the thing about the barbecue community, right? It's like 3 people have talked about it, so all of a sudden it's old news to them, and then everyone in the world knows it, right? And that's the thing with the fourth slice. That's why I wrote the article, because it's fun, because it was like this inside joke between several people. And, to a certain degree, they have a point that it is a good way to sort of measure how good your brisket is, because you can compare the same slice, like side by side by side by side, right? So you aren't cherry picking your slice out of the brisket. You're selecting that specific one. So as far as comparing one brisket to the next, I think it works well. But the idea that, or the fact that I got, had to be over 100 Instagram photos like within 2 days after publishing that, and I shared most of them, but of people sharing their fourth slice. Some people sharing it, with a level of confidence that maybe didn't show in their brisket.
Here's the heartache that you're causing restaurateurs. Here's Smokin' Joe's Pit Barbecue. He's in Joe. Forgive me. Is it El Paso, Texas? He's got a food trailer. It's going like gangbusters. And he says, I had a guy come and ask for the fourth slice of brisket. And I'm like, what the F? Of course you are, Joe. It's nonsense. Could somebody charge $20 for the fourth slice of brisket? If you have some bag coming in and asking for the fourth slice, if you're going to take out that whole brisket and cut into that fourth slice on the fatty end, can you charge $20 for that slice?
Well, the way that Leonard Botello, the way he described that problem, which really isn't a problem, is that if you want the fourth slice and he's not ready to cut the fourth slice, then you just buy 1, 2, and 3 as well. Huh. And that's about a pound of brisket. So, if you want the fourth slice out of a fresh brisket, then you're probably going to be buying a pound of brisket.
Yeah.
But there was a guy in Chicago at Green Street Smoked Meats, and he said that he did have a customer who came in and asked for, I think, 3 fourth slices, and he's like, no, no, that's not happening.
Well, I have to say, through the Truth experience, the fatty brisket was easily some of the best I've ever had. The lean brisket, so I'm going to go out on a limb here and say lean brisket was average, but however, it's lean brisket, right? So I don't know if even the best lean brisket is life-changing. Maybe average is as good as it gets. But when you're comparing the point to the flat, it was so night and day. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I love a slice of lean brisket with a nice fat cap on top. I'd say about the 5th slice of that is the best, but
we'll leave that here.
No, but really, like a lean slice of brisket with a nice fat cap on top. I do enjoy that slice. That when they cut the brisket in half and you get the fatty here and the lean here, usually that first slice of lean that still has a little of the fatty on top, that's what I get pretty often when I ask for lean brisket. That slice of lean is not my favorite. Like I want it a little closer to the I want it a little closer to the end, where I'm getting that nice 1/8 inch, quarter inch thick line of fat cap.
Turkey, 10 out of 10. It was the best turkey I've had. We've had good turkey barbecue wise here in Cleveland. You can actually second that emotion. But this turkey was out of the effing park. My wife was like, oh my God, this is life-changing turkey. We bought another pound to take home to the hotel just so we could eat it in cold. It was amazing. Even better the next day because the smoke had another 16 hours on it just to mill around and mix into that turkey meat. But holy crap, it was incredible. The only, if I have an issue, and we're picking the nittiest of nits here, I also got ribs. I think mine were like a little chewy, and from what I was told, Texas is more of a fall off the bone type of area. I don't know if you can confirm or deny that, but I was hoping for
Well,
at least like bite into it and then have everything come off clean. It was a little pulley.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I wouldn't say that's Texas style. I will say that I'm looking for the same thing that a competition judge is looking for in a rib, as you described. Like you bite down, it comes cleanly away from the bone, but nothing is like sliding off the bone, right? But I will say that when you're a barbecue joint like Truth and you're cooking full spares, you do have much more variation from edge to middle as far as doneness, right? Those edge ribs are much thinner, much smaller, and they're going to get done faster than the middle rib. And so that big, thick middle ones can sometimes be a little under, as opposed to like a rack of baby backs where most of those ribs are the same size from one end of the rack to the other.
So here's the other part of real ass Texas barbecue that I got to experience. I waited in a line. This was, let's say, an hour and a half. I got there like at 12:30, maybe 1 o'clock or something like that. So, I mean, my fault, right? Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But hour and a half, which further cements the fact I would never, ever, ever wait in Franklin's barbecue line for, 2, 3, 4, 6 hours or line up overnight or anything like that. Is it unreasonable? I know the answer is yes. Is it unreasonable to think that it might be more efficient in this place at Truth, especially this place, the Shangri-La? You would have 2 or 3 or 4 cutting stations, and at open, maybe they're fully staffed, and as you wane through the hours of operation, maybe you close down 1 or 2 and transition those people into the back, or, I don't know, clean up the dining room or whatever, just to move the line through a little bit, or is that just the process to give attention?
I mean, I do think that they normally have 2 cutters going at Truth, but I'm more of the opinion of like the barbecue joint that's selling out every day that they're open, they probably don't need much business advice from me.
But efficiency, right? I mean, nobody wants to wait in lines, or you just got to, like, people in Texas realize that, and I'm a outsider and I'm just not used to it?
Well, I mean, did you go on a Saturday as well?
No.
Or just in the weekday?
Yeah, it was. I think it was a Thursday.
Sorry, that sucks
Friday.
for you. Yeah. That's definitely on the high end of the length that I've spent. The length that I've spent in line at Truth.
I'm not complaining. So it was a great experience.
I think you were on the high end there for sure.
All right. Well,
but yeah, I think every time I've been there, at least recently, there have been at least 2 cutting stations, and then they have a side station as well. So, I think they move you along pretty quickly, but yeah, I'm sorry about that hour and a half.
Well, I mean, it's not your restaurant. And again, I'm not complaining. I'm just giving my experience. And I meant
for giving them number 3 and just showing the power of Texas Monthly.
That's right. Now, outside of Texas barbecue, I mean, we could talk about Texas barbecue until the cows come home. Of course, that's what you do best. You were recently abroad. Is there a notable barbecue scene wherever you were taking vacation? And if so, what did you think about it?
Oh wow. Yeah, we were in Athens. We went to Greece as a family for spring break. And wherever I'm traveling, I'm going to seek out a Texas style or American style barbecue place, right? And chances are, if it's a major city around the world, it's going to have at least one.
Really?
And there was, yeah, it's almost without fail.
Wow.
And Fine Mess Smokehouse was the place that I found in Athens. I mean, they have these barbecue signs all over it that are, talking about the very high-minded pursuit of barbecue. And I mean, they're taking it very seriously. Like in the dining room, you're looking through a glass window into the pit room, and it's it's all right there within this building.
Real pits?
It's not. Yeah, real offset, steel offset smoker. Yeah, it was legit. It was a legit operation going on there. The way that all that translated into the food that we got on our plate was, it was barbecue in Greece. I wasn't thinking that I was going to get some of the best I've ever had.
When you're comparing barbecue, so you're in Greece, you're getting barbecue, are you inherently evaluating it against what would be a good Texas or Central Texas barbecue restaurant, or are you just trying to base it on barbecue merits in general?
Barbecue merits in general. Yeah, I mean, for me, the barbecue merits tend to be generally universal. No matter what style you're eating, right? You want it to be tender and juicy and flavorful. And if you don't have those things, then something's gone wrong along the way, right? And so I think that's the same case whether you're in North Carolina or Memphis or Kansas City or Greece or Sweden or wherever you might be eating barbecue.
What'd you think about Greece? I hear it's quite the mix of, let's say, history and technology.
Well, we focus much more on the history side of it. So as a former architect, I had a lot of places on my list of sites that I wanted to see. Of course, we started in Athens and got to see the Acropolis and see the Parthenon.
Was Yanni playing?
Right off the bat? No, didn't see him. No.
Curse. He's my favorite.
But we took a tour through quite a bit of the country, but mainly just to classical sites. So we didn't see much of the technology side of it. It was mostly just lots of old rocks, as my daughter said.
What do people think about you Americans? Are they pretty friendly to you, or they give you a little stink eye?
Oh man, it was full of Texans, man. We had it was spring break for both Dallas schools and Houston.
So
schools.
They go to Greece,
and yeah,
I thought they go to Corpus Christi for MTV.
Well, yeah, okay, but the
hi, showing my 1992 roots, right?
Yeah,
hello,
that's for sure. Yes, yeah, but there were a lot of Texans like on the tour that we were on. There was, I mean, we on our last night in Greece, we stopped at this little, a gyro shop to eat dinner before we, went to bed, and we were headed out the next morning. And of course, like it's the ball cap, right? You see the ball cap, and it's an American. Like that's
nobody
really
wears
all there
ball
is to
caps
it.
otherwise. The Greeks,
no, not really.
It's because they all have
the Greeks,
like
for
really dense, curly black hair that everybody wishes they had.
Yes,
yeah,
yes, absolutely.
Why
I
stick it under a
did get
cap?
I was on one of the islands on Hydra, and it was rather warm, and I did buy myself a Greek shirt, which is it's a deep V-neck. I mean, we're talking like chest hair Friday, big time.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So not many ball caps unless they're Americans, but yeah. So we see this family, and it's like, oh wow, are you on the flight to DFW Airport tomorrow morning? Oh yeah, we are. Yeah. So we saw them all along the way as well. So yeah, we saw lots of Texans. I mean, there was even another tour group who was eating a snack with us at when we were at Olympia, where the first Olympics were held.
Yeah.
And somebody was asking me about where to go eat barbecue in in San Antonio, and I was telling them. And somebody asked about Houston. This other group's like, Fort Worth's got the best, and I was like, yeah, I've heard that.
They know who you are.
So I don't think they did, which made it even funnier. But they were saying that because of Goldie's.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I enjoyed that part. Yes.
Outside of the barbecue attempt, what was the best food you ate at Greece?
Wow. Well, there was this one night where we kind of snuck off away from the tour group and the bad buffet in the hotel. Yeah, well, it was bad buffet in the hotel. We'd had enough of that. And so we went down the street to this place in Delphi, and they had it was just a local restaurant making local food. They had this homemade noodles, which was basically egg noodles, and roasted lamb, and they made their own vermouth, and they made their own liqueurs, and yeah, so we had a grand time. That was probably my favorite meal right there.
Daniel Vaughn is writing for Texas Monthly. He's the first ever full-time barbecue editor in this country, and he's currently still the best. tmbbq.com is the website, and the tweeter is at BBQ Snob. If you would like to get at him and ask questions or give him your comments on where the barbecue scene is, he's there for any and all of it. Daniel, always appreciate the time, and we will see you again in 3 months.
All right. Great talking with you.
You got it. It's Daniel Vaughn. Fresh from Greece. He's daring. I think he got stuck in Peru, I think. Was it Peru? Costa Rica? One of those places. He was stuck in the pandemic, like couldn't get back. He's a traveler, that guy. Travels all across Texas, which is bigger than most countries that he's gone to. And then he's traveling outside of the United States as well. Far more adventures than me. And good for him. I'd rather live through him vicariously than actually travel. TMBBQ.com is website, and we're back to wrap the whole show right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Greg Rempe.
And we thank Daniel Vaughn for joining us last segment. TMBBQ.com is his website. The Barbecue Show is saying, I can't even get into the U.S. Well, no shit, Jason. You hate every cooker ever made. The United States listens. This guy hates too many cookers. He can't come into the United States. He can't do it. As soon as he relaxes on some of the hate, we'll let him back into the greatest country ever. But until then, you got to stay up north. Go perfect your booze teen. Make more boosteen, Jason. Give it to the guards as you cross the border. Give it to the border guards. Maybe they'll let you in with a little boosteen. All right, let's go ahead and get on out. We're a little late. All the way back in the first hour in segment 1 and 2 and a little into the second hour was Jeremy Umansky. He is a Koji expert, the Koji expert. Koji Alchemy is his book that he co-wrote. You can find that wherever books are sold. By the way, I meant to give this away 7 times over the course of the last 2 hours. It's Kent and Shannon Rollins' Comfort Food the Cowboy Way. If you would like this book, email me right now and in the subject line put Canada. Hurry! First one in will win it. I'll get back to you and you will give me a shipping address. That's Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com if you want to win Kent Rollins' new book. Subject line Canada. Do it right now. If you're listening to this on podcast, don't send me an email. Don't! The contest is already over. There's been a winner. Trust me on this. Don't send me the email. Don't send me the email. Don't send me the email. They say in advertising, you got to say it at least 3 times for people to hear it. So, if you're listening on podcast, don't send me the email. There we go. So is Jeremy Umansky, second hour, West Wright from cookoutnews.com, and then closing out the show, Daniel Vaughn from Texas Monthly. The 4th Tuesday of the month comes up next week. Derek Riches will be in. The Embedded Correspondents will be in, amongst others. So please be sure to tune in. Don't forget to get the Best Moments show this coming Friday to hear the first ever show I ever did, ever. And then don't email me telling me how bad it sucks, because again, I lived it. I know it. So that's what's happening. Oh, and over the course of this week and next week, I'll be releasing all the interviews I got at the HPB Expo in Louisville that I was there a week and a half ago. Those are all audited. Those are all audited and edited. They were given back to the people that gave me the interviews. They've agreed that everything's good, and I will now begin to release those to look for a bunch of bonus content. About 6 or 7 bonus content episodes coming out here over the course of the next week or so. Broil King, Danson's, Pro Q, Bull, Barbecue. Those are the ones I'm remembering right off the top of my head. Blackstone. That was a great interview. Can't wait to release that one. That'll be the first release. Blackstone. So look forward to that. All right. Again, big show planned for you Tuesday. How do I always leave? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Till next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. This is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Bye-bye.
Hey, what's up? This is JM, host of the Celebrity Grill podcast on iTunes, and you're listening to the Barbecue Central Radio Network. All barbecue and grilling, all the time.